Hey everybody, today I am with Gerard Taylor, phenomenal developer, software engineer at Twitter, and amazing human being. I've actually had the pleasure of knowing Gerard for a little while now, but this is the first time we've ever spoke face
Yeah.
to face, kind of. So that's
Yeah.
kind of cool. But Gerard, thank you for doing this and taking the time out of your schedule to actually be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
So the first question I'm going to ask is, who are you and what's your story?
Story is a little bit interesting in that I didn't necessarily follow a traditional background to get into tech, but I've always been technical. So I got my bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering. And like I hadn't written a line of code until I got to college. And so and throughout my degree, I actually didn't write very much code other than like inside of MATLAB and stuff like that. So I graduated and I joined Lockheed Martin. I was a test engineer there. I didn't actually write any software again, but they actually paid for my master's degree. So I used that to kind of segue into a different career in software development. But initially, I didn't think to make it my career. I just wanted to learn how to make mobile apps and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, so I did that. I was at Lockheed for 3 years, and then once I graduated, I joined Intel. And then at Intel, I was a high performance software engineer working with supercomputers. And then I was there for 2 years, and now I've been at Twitter about a year and a half, and it's been great. So that's kind of like my progression into software engineering. But it's interesting to say that like throughout that journey, I was one of a handful of African American engineers, whether hardware engineers or software, throughout that entire experience. I think I could count on one hand the number of Black engineers in my aerospace program, and this is kind of the same thing in my work environment as well. So I've had this experience of being one of few, and I've kind of had to learn how to deal with that throughout my whole journey. So yeah, so that's kind of my story so far. Yeah.
So you just mentioned an interesting point. You said you had to learn how to deal with that. What is a way that you learned how to deal with that? What was an experience you may have had in dealing with that as well?
Yeah, so I think in tech it's you come across this situation where there's so few Black software engineers that people don't know what to expect from you, right? So what does that look like? That might look like well, they'll give you easy tasks to see how you adapt to it, or they won't necessarily give you the mission critical stuff because they don't know if you can handle it, or just because they don't have any experience working with Black engineers, right? So you end up having this sort of um, you have to deal with this sort of situation where you're given these tasks or these things that you have to implement, and you have to just do it well to help them formulate solid opinions of you, and even for better or worse, like help them form opinions about what other Black software engineers might be like, right? So I don't necessarily feel like I'm a trailblazer by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not the first Black engineer. I certainly won't be the last, but there's definitely a precedent of if I do well, it has the potential of opening the door for other minority engineers in the field.
I can totally see that. And, whether you think it's a big task or a small task, it's phenomenal that you're doing that and you have that mindset to ensure you're leaving the door open so others can come in behind you. So
Exactly.
thank you for taking that initiative.
Yeah.
And I guess my next question is going to be, what do you see as the future for Black tech?
Well, I think I'm very fortunate to be a part of a very forward-thinking company in Twitter. Um, Twitter has one of the best minority outreach programs to bring in diverse talent. Future for Blacks in tech, I think, is there's going to be more of representation of us, not just in like D&I, diversity and inclusion roles, but more technical roles as well, as software engineers, as program managers, as product managers, and stuff like that, and as engineering managers. So having more Blacks in tech will allow companies to develop diverse opinions around controversial issues, whether they're, what's going on in the world or what's happening internal to the company. And that'll also help make these companies more representative of the users that they serve, right? So um, the folks who use Twitter come from every type of background, every ethnicity, and so on. So you want to have people who work for you that represent that your users, so that you can better craft an experience that more fits to them. And I think there's going to be a lot of that going forward. And I think there's plenty of opportunity for Blacks in tech.
So I guess the thing that I want to ask you is, if someone was trying to come up into the tech field and was looking for a little piece of advice, what would you give them?
Oh wow. I think you said it best in one of your tweets, Danny, about consistency. I think whatever it is, if you're if you're starting from scratch and you're just learning to code, or you're doing a career change like I did, or you're trying to make that change into a technical field, I think you have to be consistent. Whether it's you get that consistency from a structured program, or you're better at crafting your own path yourself and staying consistent with that. And I think once you realize that you're getting 1% better every day, you'll look back in a year and you'll be like, wow, I didn't know how code worked a year ago. And here I am a year later, and I can just build a website end to end with a front end and a back end. And I can speak that language. And that will, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how fast you get into the industry after that.
I absolutely agree with that. No one has ever woke up one day and was like, "Oh, I know everything about React and I can make a website today."
Right,
It's
right.
it's a very slow but progressive grind, and
Exactly.
consistent effort is the only way you're ever going to learn
Yeah.
whatever you want to create. So, thank you
Ex-
for mentioning me in that. I genuinely appreciate that.
Yeah, no,
Everyone,
absolutely.
you have to check out Gerard. He is a phenomenal human being. Check him out on Twitter, check him out on YouTube. And at the end of the day, I love the fact that we know each other, and I love the fact that you're representing, Black people in tech. Thank you, Gerard.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.